Turner.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. There was a very significant difference, in my view, between what the Prime Minister said in answer to the Right Honourable Lady, the Leader of the Opposition, last week in Prime Minister's questions, and what the evidence was of Ollie Robbins the previous day. I think I'm right in saying that the Prime Minister said there was no pressure whatsoever, intimating at very least that that was the evidence that Ollie Robbins had given to the committee. I watched every minute of it. That's definitely not, and I've looked back, I've checked Hansard, the evidence that was given by Ollie Robbins. So I do think there is a prima facie case for this matter to be investigated and an inquiry to be had by the appropriate committee of this House. Because the truth of the matter is, and people, colleagues who came in at the last general election might be disappointed with me because I've got the audacity to stand up and say what I'm to believe is the truth. I'm sorry if they're not happy with me about that. But I'm here not to represent my interests, but to represent the interests of those that elect me to this chamber. And that's what I will always do, whether it's against the government policy, whether it's a Tory party in government, or whether it's my own government. I'll do what I think is in the interests of my electorate. And let me just warn colleagues by saying this. I promise you now, if we are seen to go through the lobby to defend this process, which is a reasonable process, Mr. Speaker, this isn't the shenanigans that the government has suggested in relation to jury trials. This is not a single judge. This is a jury of peers, impartial, made up more of Labour MPs than it is Tory MPs. The Prime Minister has nothing to fear. He ought to do the right thing. He should, as my right honourable friend suggested, he should have referred himself. And that would have saved us all this messing around, debating the point, trying to justify why it's a bad idea. There's two committees running alongside. Utter nonsense. Get on with it, be dealt with, and let's move on.
Let's be absolutely clear about what just happened here. A Labour MP has just stood up in Parliament and directly questioned the Prime Minister's own version of events, and not in a polite, procedural way, but in a way that completely undermines his credibility. He points to a clear contradiction between what Keir Starmer told the House and what was actually said in evidence by Ollie Robbins. And he doesn't hesitate, he says it plainly. There is a serious gap between the truth and what the Prime Minister is claiming. This is where things start to get uncomfortable. Because once you strip away the political language, what he is really saying is this: the Prime Minister's statement does not match the evidence that was presented to Parliament. And then he goes further. He doesn't just raise concern, he demands action, a full investigation, a proper inquiry, not delay, not spin, not political damage control, but accountability through the appropriate parliamentary process. And what makes this even more explosive is the tone he takes next. He essentially tells his own colleagues, I don't care if you agree with me or not. I'm here to represent my constituents, not political convenience. That alone is a direct challenge to party discipline. But the real pressure moment comes when he warns Parliament itself. He makes it clear, if MPs try to quietly block or defend the process behind closed doors, they are not just debating procedure, they are actively undermining transparency. And then he dismantles the criticism of the inquiry process itself, rejecting claims of unfairness, rejecting the idea that this is some kind of political setup, and instead describing it as a jury of peers, not a single judge, not a controlled outcome, but a structured parliamentary mechanism. In other words, he is saying, there is no excuse to avoid this. No escape route. No political cover. And finally, he puts the Prime Minister in a corner, saying he should have referred himself from the beginning, because if he had, none of this escalating tension, none of this parliamentary conflict, would even be happening right now. So what you're left with is a parliament divided between procedure and pressure, between political loyalty and institutional accountability. And the question now is no longer just about what was said, it's about whether Parliament actually has the courage to follow through and investigate it properly. If you want, I can next